Gonzaga Nation SI, your two hosts. I'm Dan Dickau alongside Adam Morrison, here to break down the week's games. We got a great slate of games for Gonzaga fans to wrap up the regular season. Gonzaga's obviously already locked up the league title, which is so important in Coach Few's vision. He wants to continue to build this program, but they play at US and at St. Mary's. Adam, first question I got for you is you look at the consistency of Gonzaga winning league titles, and I remember my days playing before you at Gonzaga. Coach Few never really talked about the WCC tournament. He always talked about playing our best basketball in league. Do you have those same recollections, and why do you think he made such an emphasis on the league?
Well, I think, especially now, I guess, obviously during our time, it was kind of the beginning of the dominance of the league titles. But I think now he tries to stress playing good basketball, playing the right way. He knows he has better personnel, better teams, and sometimes by a wide margin. So I think he just tries to emphasize what it means to win league titles, how really hard it really used to be. Okay, so let's not lose sight on having success and not celebrating it. So I think he just wants his teams to continue to play good basketball and continue to do the right things. So, that's a hard thing to do. It kind of, you can get complacent a little bit and you can get lazy in your mindset of, well, we're probably going to win because we have McDonald's All-Americans, we have NBA players. But I think it's also a challenge for guys that are there on winning league titles. So like, it's kind of what you're, as a Gonzaga player, like your resume starts, like, did you win league or did you go undefeated and stuff like that? So I think he tries to remind guys like, hey, the guys before you won and you need to continue.
Coach has always had some different and interesting kind of motivating tactics. I remember the year before I got there, Coach Few was an assistant, but it was Dan Monson. Right before the NCAA tournament, he kicked the guys out of the locker room because they weren't keeping it clean. I think Mike Nilsson was giving guys haircuts. I remember my junior year, he didn't like how tough we were playing, and so we all had to wear Army camouflage T-shirts to practice for the week, and all we literally did was rebound and defense for probably 85% of the practice. Do you remember any practices maybe where there was a motivating technique or
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah, we had one where it was my sophomore year. We were in some practice and it wasn't going well. So it was actually Bill Greer made everybody go to the locker room and change out of their Gonzaga stuff and then come back out and just go shirts versus skins and like whatever you had in your locker. So it was kind of a reminder, like, hey, if you're putting on the jersey, you need to play hard every single time, no matter if it's practice, game, So that message got across pretty good, and then we've all been through the training camp, fall camp practice. That's 3.5 hours long, and you don't want to be there for the last hour and a half of it. And your feet are swollen and you can barely feel your legs, but it's one of those things you do as a team too, though. You grind through it together and you can look back and say that was fun in a sense. And now when we play these games, they're going to be easy physically, so I understand them. And they're just everybody has one. I have a couple that I wouldn't want to share on air or share at another time when we do story time about some of the things that were said and some of the things that were done. Nothing crazy, but also like, yeah, that was some crazy, getting off a bus after 2-hour plane ride and going straight to practice. Like Few would never do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We would never do that anymore. Now it's like, oh, the science says you got to rest. Like back then they were like, yeah, you guys are soft. Get to practice. So
yeah. I've got one there right there too, and mine I'll save more of it for when we talk NCAA tournament prep. But it was leading up to the NCAA tournament, and it was just a grind of a day. And by the end of the day, we were all looking at each other like, "Are we done?" And no. Then we had to go watch film. It was just like looking back, it was like too much.
Too much, yeah. Sometimes it's too much.
Well, Gonzaga's on the road for their last two home games. They're two probably the two most difficult games on their league slate are coming up. And I think it's going to be a great preparation for the conference tournament as well as the NCAA tournament. But they start off at San Francisco. San Francisco has lost a couple close games, in particular to St. Mary's, but I still think they're an NCAA tournament team. USF, the gym there is a tough place to play. What are the keys in your eyes for Gonzaga to handle that game and move on with a victory?
I think we got to slow down their guards. Shabazz and Bouye are really good guards. Bouye is really experienced, can score in the high 20s if he gets going. He can get out in transition as well. Shabazz is kind of a wild card for me. I think he shot him out of the game at Gonzaga earlier, but he has the ability to make shots as well, and he kind of plays a little bit reckless. But it's also, if you're playing at home and you're hyped and you're ready to go, that could be deterrent because he's very quick, very athletic, and get in the paint. And then also he's from the Northwest, so you have the little chip on your shoulder of not getting recruited by Gonzaga. So there's always those elements when we play San Francisco. And like you said, the gym there is really small. It can get loud. Usually we draw pretty good in there as well, so it kind of goes both ways. But it's a great feel. It's the fun gym to play in. So I think if we can slow down their guard play, we'll definitely have a huge advantage inside. So I think their advantage, not that I don't think those guys are better than Rashir and Andrew, but they can play with them is my point. If we can slow them down, especially in transition, take care of the basketball, it'll definitely help our chances to win.
I love that comment you just made that their guards maybe aren't as good, or you wouldn't take them over Rozier and Andrew, but they can play with them. I think that's a comment that most average fans don't realize. You don't have to be as good. You just have to be close and then be great on that day to come up with an upset. And so many times, I think that's what happens in the NCAA tournament with mismatches or perceived mismatches that come up with upsets.
Yeah,
So I'm
no,
not,
I mean, yeah, everybody has a day. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That happens all the time. And those are two talented players. Bouye's been in the league for 4 years. I think this is his fifth year, obviously a red shirt. So he has the experience. And then, like I said, Shabazz is super quick, super athletic, can get by guys. I think he just had a poor night at Gonzaga. He kind of shot him out of it. But if those go in, then it's a different story. So I think you're exactly right. It could go either way, but if we can slow those two guys down, then it makes it really tough for San Francisco to score, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to steal that analogy, play with them for some of my broadcasts because I like that. We're going to take a quick pause for station identification. We'll be right back. Well, Adam, let's move on to St. Mary's because they have clearly separated themselves as the number 2 team in the conference. They're ranked 23 as of this recording. I would expect and imagine them to win on Thursday to set up the matchup with Gonzaga, where you've got number 1 at number 23. Gonzaga has had some issues at times playing in Moraga's gym. It's a dark. I haven't been there in years, so I can't say it's dank. It used to be dank when I was playing. What makes that gym so difficult to play in for Gonzaga at times?
I think the crowd gets a little bit raucous. They've done a good job of their, I guess, presentation too. I know that sounds funny, but like they get the crowd going, and they, built a jumbotron and all that stuff, and so they've added end line seats probably since you were there. So they've kind of made it a little more welcoming environment, if that makes sense for a fan. So then the fans get in there and have a good time. And it's obviously a well-coached basketball team. So you mix in that, it can be tough for the team to go in there. We've had some battles in that gym over the years. Some I've called and some I was on the sideline when I was GA. And so it can be tough, and they get raucous and get going. So hopefully our guys are ready to play, but it's going to be an important game, obviously, for a number of reasons to cap the league off. You want to go undefeated as a player. It's a feather in your cap. Then also that's another good win to kind of solidify number 1 seed overall.
Do you see St. Mary's as being talented enough and a good enough team to win a game in the NCAA tournament?
I think they're good enough to get to the second weekend because they play tough. Kuzi's a fantastic player as far as controlling the pace. I think the Dukas kid can go off. He's got good size. He can shoot the basketball. I like toss inside. I think he's an old school back of the basket, and obviously uh, Randy knows how to like get guys involved in the right spots. We talked about that the last time we played him. They kind of just fill in guys at the same system, but they all seem to work. So yeah, like when we played them, I wasn't surprised because I know how tough they are, but you're looking at their talent. It's quote unquote down compared to the previous years. Like there's no Landale and things like that, and no Waldo and blah blah blah. But you're like, and those suckers play hard. And they move the basketball and they are right in it every single time, and that's just good coaching. So I think let's say they play the fifth place team in a big conference that maybe struggles against teams that play really disciplined and slow it down and make you grind. They could definitely win multiple games in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion.
Well, it's always a weird time of the year for a player and a coach where it's the regular season. You've already wrapped up the league title, but you have to continue to improve for the conference tournament. But more importantly for Gonzaga, the NCAA tournament. How do you improve this time of year?
Well, I think you can just improve situationally. I think that comes down to how your coaching staff self scouts, because you got to start preparing for what could happen and how teams are going to play you and try to take away your best actions and players. So I think you start adding layers to, okay, if this team, or this style, we got exposed here, or we see something and obviously somebody else that's a talented coaching staff is going to see it. So let's put it in now. So when the game happens, we're not completely lost. So I think if you kind of have to self scout and understand, hey, we're still winning games. Obviously we're going to be 30-2 or whatever. But we struggled against a 1-2-2 against San Francisco. And so we play somebody in the NCAA tournaments got bigger, longer athletes. Let's go over that type of defense again and our actions to really hammer in. And so when the game comes, we're not, surprised. So things of that nature, in my opinion, you just kind of have to self scout and get ready to go. Then as a player, you just got to clear your mind and get yourself kind of in a killer mode. But it's NCAA tournament time. It's like, hey man, it's obviously win or go home, but I have to play well for us to advance. And that's as a whole, but like we got to, play your best. And so you got to get yourself kind of mentally ready.
Well, Adam, appreciate it. I love talking shop with you. Obviously, high level basketball mind, high level Gonzaga basketball mind. It's going to be fun to watch these two games because I think these are going to be the two biggest challenges we get or have to prepare for in league this year. So have a safe travels down to the Bay, and we will connect soon. So for Gonzaga Nation SI, he's Adam Morrison. I'm Dan Dickau. Check us out on all social media channels.